Alright, how we doing, Evenant? Big Jer, back with you again. Second sound. We're going to be making the Braam, but we're going to be doing it inside of Serum this time. This one's going to be called our Braam. Let's check out what this sounds like. Pretty dope sound. A lot of stuff going on there. Let's jump in there and see what it looks like. Alright, so here's our sound, and we're going to go ahead and start creating it. So let's go ahead and go into menu, and then this one's going to say init preset. It's going to bring us to, blank preset. So one thing that I want to mention again here is the note that we're designing to. For whatever reason, I chose G-2 on this one. I'm going to be a little more consistent for you in the future. I think we're going to try to keep them all on the same note. I think that'd be smarter, but it's one of those things that just happened. So we'll go with it. So the first thing we're going to do is select our wavetable. I went in under digital, and I know I may have some stuff that you don't have, but I won't ever use stuff that I didn't give you or that you won't have. I'll never use something that you were not able to grab. So under digital, we're going to go up to D-Bussy. I hope I said that right. And that's going to be our wavetable. Okay? And we want to get a little bit of movement here. Cool. So we're going to create our first envelope shape. But remember, over here in Serum, you could turn your LFO into sort of an envelope mode, right? And that's the way I prefer to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and make this this shape here, and it's going to look like this. It's going to come in real fast. Here's the thing that's pretty interesting about Serum that I may or may not have mentioned, but these grids are going to help you keep your sound in time. One of the main things about Serum over Massive, I mean, Massive has got some gnarly stuff happening there, but when we make adjustments, we kind of have to use our ears to hear it, where here we could help train our ears with our eyes, because everything we do, we could actually see what it's doing. So for example, if I wanted this to take half the amount of time. So if it was a, quarter note here, it would take an eighth note to get to this point, and then another eighth note to get to here, because this is directly in the middle. So I can keep using these guys to subdivide myself in sort of time with the tempo of the song. Awesome. Let's keep that in mind. So this is going to kind of rip right in, and we're going to drag this just the same way we do it in Massive. We're going to drag this thing over and kind of plop it on right there. Cool, you can feel this pull. Good, love that. So before we do anything else, let's go over here and set up oscillator B. I want to set up oscillator B to actually FM with oscillator A. So that means I'm going to influence this wavetable onto this wavetable, meaning I don't actually have to hear it. I'll hear the way it influences this table. So we turn the volume down. Awesome. So I'm going to go over here and turn on FM to B. FM from B. Okay, let's just turn that on. So I'm going to go over here and turn on FM from B. And I think I'll turn on pulse width on this guy. And, check this out. This has got bend plus and minus and bend, plus minus. So if I do add bend plus, then you can see what it's doing to the wavetable, right? You can see it's bending them in here. This is going to help us in Massive too, because there's a lot of things that Serum does, that Massive does, that you never really knew what was happening. You heard what was happening, but now we can see it. It's going to help us use Massive even better. But for this one, we're going to use pulse width. And I'm going to bring this guy up into here and make this type of a shape. And then what I'm going to do is influence some FM from this guy. So ooh, FM is gnarly. So let's bring this kind of up to here. And then I'm going to add some of this guy to it to make some motion happen. All right, not bad. So at this point, let's turn our sub on, and we definitely want direct out. And we'll turn it to this guy here, and for whatever reason, I designed down really low. So we'll turn it up 2 octaves. Love that. So now all all of a sudden we have a sub happening there. So now we're going to move down to our envelope section, because remember, envelope 1 controls the whole sound, kind of like in massive. Envelope 4 controls the whole sound. So we're going to want to make this take the shape of a Braam. I'm going to actually read some numbers off for you so I get it just right, but this is the sort of thing that I would mess around with until I get it just right. Cool. So let's see, we've got 121 milliseconds. By the way, if you cannot type in your milliseconds like that, then over here in global, you'll have to double click for typable values. So just make sure you got that guy turned on. Cool. Let's see what else we got. We got 705 here. Oops. Perfect. Let's see, we got, bring this down about -28. I think I did something like that. Yep. And finally, we're going to put this guy at 485. So this is what my Braam shape is looking like, which is nice. It comes in and then kind of rolls right out, which is kind of what we're expecting. So now we're heading over to the filter. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. We're going to select a comb filter. Let's go for the L6 positive. Okay, and we're going to do a few things before we start turning on the comb filter. We're going to make sure our sub is being sent through it. Now, this is confusing maybe, but it will both be sent direct out, but I also want to influence a little bit of it into the comb filter. So it won't affect our direct out, so that's okay. And I want to turn on key tracking, because as I turn up the low pass frequency and I turn up the resonance, you can see how this is going to be a really gnarly type filter. So what we want to do is make sure that we're key tracked so that the resonance follows our different keys and doesn't change for each individual sound. So let's find the right position. Not bad, not bad. So cool, now that I've got that, every note that I play will still follow that resonance, so that's a good thing. So what I want to do is create some movement here. So if you notice, look, when I turn this down, that top part gets kind of cut off, and then I can bring it in, so it sounds like this. So that's a little push that I could do, right? So let's make a new envelope. Let's use LFO 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of have it do one of these things where it kind of dips down and then goes up. And I'm going to leave it right here in the middle so it stays in time. So I'm going to bring it here and I'll pull it over to it and apply it going up. And I'm going to put it on envelope mode. Nice. That really helps shape out the sound a lot. You hear that? It kind of closes it out, which is really, really nice. So I think we could add a little bit of a noise oscillator here too. And for me, there's a couple ways to use the noise oscillator. In this particular situation, we're going to use it sort of like a smear to fill in the little gaps, right? So I'm going to choose Aircan, which is under Organics, and I'm going to go for Aircan 2. I'm going to go for this guy here because that's going to keep it in key, so I'm just going to bring it all the way up. And what I'm going to want to do is create a shape here to influence my volume to come up. So let's go ahead and grab LFO 3. And what we're going to do is kind of pull this almost all the way over and do something like this, but I'm going to switch it to envelope and make it a full bar long. So it's going to take almost the whole bar to get to the top. I'm going to go ahead and apply that over here. And this is going to bring in the air. Okay, that's going to help shape our sound, add another dimension to our sound. You hear the thing, and then the air comes in. So I want to go down here and turn on mono. Okay, that means just one note will be able to be played at a time, and that'll help out with some processing speed too, because if you have a lot of these voices, it could make your computer kind of bug out. So at this point, we're looking pretty good on the front page. And we'll come back and tweak it, but let's go over to our effects section to really start shining this up. Now, Serum's effects section is way more detailed than probably any other synth I've ever seen. You got a lot of modules here, plus you can move them around. So I'm going to choose my filter and bring it up to the top. Remember how we only have this one filter here, and it's acting as a comb filter, but I could add a little bit of shape to our sound by just using this low right here and applying some curves to this. So basically what I want to do is just kind of roll this up here, and there you go. You can see how that's kind of just cutting off the top. Watch. Nice. I like that. Other than that, maybe we just turn up the fat a little bit. Just adds a little more oomph to it. Next thing is I'm going to go for some distortion. So let's pop this up. And one of my favorite, well, these are a bunch of different distortion modules in here. So I like the dioid too, but you could feel free to experiment. Nice. So here's your drive, and you can see that when I add drive to it, this is how it affects the, the dioid wavetable or waveform, I guess. When I add drive to it, you can see how it affects the diode waveform here. And then this mix is a wet and dry situation, so it's like how much of it you want to add to it. I think I'm going to choose a lot of drive and a lower mix. Perfect. From here, I'm going to grab my compressor and bring it up. And you've got the opportunity to either do a single band compressor, or if you turn on multi-band, it acts just like an OTT. We'll get into OTT later. But basically, an OTT is a really easy way to even out your sound. What I'm going to do is like not touch anything. And these here, you can move these guys, right? So for example, we've got a sub already happening. So let's take a lot of these lows out. And then basically we kind of even the sound out to our ears. Do we want more or less mids? Same thing with the highs. Sounded pretty wicked. Let's add a little bit of drive. Awesome. I love that. The only thing we got to worry about is making sure we're not going into the red here. Next is going to be some reverb. Okay, we're going to need a little bit of small room. Let's put some of that low cut up. And maybe I'll make my mix about halfway. Nice, puts it in a nice room, gives it some depth. And these cinematic sounds, they always have a lot of reverb, so whatever. So next I think we're going to add, well, let's bring that to the top. And next I'm going to add some EQ. Now this is a nice way to add a little bit of movement to the end of your sound. I'm going to turn this on, but look, I can move this guy if I want, right? Maybe we will. I'm also going to go over here and add myself a little bit of a band pass, turn up the volume, and open up the Q. Nice. So let's go ahead and make a little bit of motion here. Maybe I'll grab this guy and I'll maybe just go like this. Nice. You see how I'm moving that filter? Just gives it a little bit of motion, a little bit of a thwack right there. Now I'm going to add some hyper dimension to widen it a bit. And this is kind of like having unisonos, right? Or unisons here. They're called unisons here, unisonos and massive. We're just going to add, well, you know what? This actually works kind of like the massive way. So over here, I'm able to add unisons to each individual wavetable. But over in the effects unit, I could add this hyper acts kind of like the unisono section back in massive. So I could add some overall unison to the whole sound. So let's bring down the rate. And a detune. And 4 is fine. I'll bring down the mix a bit. Something I like to do is the re-trigger. That means it'll start from the same point every time. And maybe I'll bring up the rate a bit. Cool. And then this dimension expander, this is actually 2 modules here. So the dimension is like the dimension expander in Massive. So we're going to bring this down to like 2%. This is kind of the standard way of doing it. And what I'll do is kind of have this open up as, let's see which one of these guys look good for that. Quarter note, let's try it. I'm going to bring this over here and have it open up. Nice. Hell yeah, this is really starting to take some shape. Okay, so I'm going to want to kind of shape this EQ up a little bit more. Maybe I'll go over here and use this one on the Q. Kind of have that popping through a little bit. Let's see. Okay, you can see it moving the Q over here. And I want to move this guy too. Something like that, like a little bit of a growl effect to it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this shape over here, envelope 4. What I'm going to do is, you know, we could just drag this guy over and, you know, we want it to be really quick. So we'll probably switch it to an 8th note and on envelope, on trigger. So what we're going to want to do is kind of drag this over here, and it's going to add a little bit of motion to our sound. So do you see what happens here? This is pretty interesting. We're holding it in, and this guy is going to create this after effect almost. It's pretty interesting. This is looking pretty good. I think we got this designed right. Let's head back over to our oscillator section and see what's happening over there. See if we can shape things a bit better. Okay, I guess we could add a little bit of animation to our bass. You see how we got that kind of thing happening over here? Let's see if we can amplify that with the sub. So I'll go over to this guy, pop him over onto the sub volume, and do something like this where you can hear that sub pulsing with the sound. Alright, we are looking good. So now we're ready to start fine-tuning some stuff. So you're going to notice this comb filter, this cutoff frequency, this could change everything. So let's really dial this in and find this angry tugboat sound. Awesome. That's got that really gnarly stuff right. I'm digging that. So I'm going to want to open up this hold here a bit. Something like this. Nice. It's going to sound a lot more like a trumpet hit, which I like. And if we go back over here, let's apply some more of this mix of this distortion. Alright, this is starting to happen. Now the last thing I want to do is use this guy to shape the actual level here so it's not so wild. So I'm going to bring this in, and I can also mix it now with the sub a bit. I think the last thing that we have to change or edit a little bit is this guy here. I'm thinking it's coming in too fast. So let's cut this back to a half note. And then I feel like it goes up too high, so let's bring this like this, something like this. So from here, that's pretty much the sound. What I would do now is, you know, dial it in the sense that, like, you could tell that, like, as I adjust these parameters a little bit, like, if I was to, you know, then maybe go over here. what I'm going to do is include all of my original presets in for a download, so you can go ahead and you cross-reference it between what I had and what you've made. So many of these knobs, little changes can really dial in the sound or change the sound. So as you're practicing, really don't be afraid to change every little thing a million times until you're comfortable with the sound. This is an art form in and of itself. All right, guys, cool. Let's hear it one more time. Pretty dope. That is an angry tugboat if I ever heard one. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.